Welcome to Sales Players, the #1 podcast for top players in B2B sales.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the world of sales, this is the show for you.
We're all about bringing you fresh, actionable ideas to supercharge your rev gen game.
We dive deep into the mindset, habits, and tools used by top performers in the industry. Generate more leads, close more deals, and build wealth and financial security in B2B sales.
So if you're ready to level up, you've come to the right place. Join the conversation with other like-minded sales players and continue the discussion beyond the show.
Hit the subscribe button, tune into the Sales Players, and let's start winning together.
This episode of Sales Players is brought to you by Leadfeeder. You can use the link in the show notes to set up a 21-day extended trial of Leadfeeder for you and your team. You're a sales hunter with literally hundreds of target accounts in your territory and no idea who in your patch is even in the market for your solution. You've pulled all the reports, built all the lists, and you've done a bunch of account research, but you're still in the dark about where to find your low-hanging fruit. And look, you could waste another quarter smiling and dialing, grinding through a cold list, and blasting out emails, or you could do what I do and get Leadfeeder. Leadfeeder identifies the companies that visit your company's website and tracks on-site activity so you can see which leads from your region are ready to buy right now. Leadfeeder has customizable notifications, lead scoring, routing, and it works seamlessly with your CRM system. Right now, Sales Players has got the hookup on an extended 21-day free trial offer, so be sure to use the link in the show notes to sign up. Stop burning time and resources on leads that don't convert and sign up for Leadfeeder.
All right, everybody. Well, today is a very special day at the Sales Players. You know, as an SDR, I love booking meetings, and I think one of my favorite meetings with one of my favorite authors. We have Jeb Blount, who is the author of Fanatical Prospecting, a sales guru, and really excited to have you on the Sales Players today, Jeb.
How often is it that I get interviewed by someone that has a Southern accent and a Kentucky accent at that? So that's beautiful. Like that's why you book so many meetings, and you show up with that sweet accent. People can't say no to a Southerner.
They cannot. And especially,
I agree.
You know, especially a person, we were off air talking good bourbons and, Jeb, actually, you know where I live in Baghdad, Kentucky, of all places. So I really think that I don't come from a seller's perspective. I come from like the valet parking world. So actually, I've used that hospitality mindset of actually talking to people, and it's helped me in my sales career. So I'm really excited to lean into that and talk about that today with you.
The thing is, people just dig authentic. If you're just yourself and you're nice and you're kind and authenticity has a limit. I mean, authenticity without respect for your audience is arrogance, but there's just something about being relaxed and confident and cool, and people just lean into it.
So Jeb, tell us where does your story begin? Take us back to the beginning. How did you get into this crazy business of sales and, of course, sales coaching now and getting on stage and presenting and writing books? That's insane. That seems like just one of the most challenging things you could do is write a book, but you've written, it looks like almost a dozen books or more.
Yeah. If men could experience childbirth, a book would be as close as you could get. And
oh man,
and the thing about a book is, like, you think about childbirth. I never experienced it, but I do have kids, so my wife experienced it. It was painful. It was awful experience. And after a birth, I don't know how many women are this way, but my wife was never again, never, right. And a lot of women are that way. And then 2 years later, they have another kid. So that's my problem with books is I'm like, never, ever, ever am I doing this again. And I mean, we were at a party recently, and one of our friends asked my wife, when I was going to be putting my next book out. And she said, you need to ask his next wife. Cause it's like, it turns your entire world upside down. It's a horrible process, but I do enjoy it. Like, I enjoy the process. I like it. You've done enough of it. It's easier. this book that we just wrote,
Mhm.
AI Edge, was a tough book mostly because the damn technology kept changing. Like you write a chapter and then you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and read an article in the Wall Street Journal. And you realize that everything you just wrote's crap because it all changed overnight. And it eventually started plateauing and peaking. But my story in sales really begins in high school, because I joined the yearbook when I was in 11th grade so I could meet girls, because the yearbook was covered up in girls. And I figured that was a great place to hang out with them. And turns out you had to sell ads because it was part of being part of the yearbook. So I got a quota and I went out. The quota was like $300 and I sold like $3,800 for the ads because I just would keep knocking on doors. And it turns out if you knock on doors and talk with people, they give you money. So but by the way, the first check I ever got was at Hall's Hardware Store in downtown Harlem, Georgia, which is probably about the same size as Baghdad. And so I go down, and the guy writes me a check. I mean, this is old school. Like he writes a business check, one of those long checks, and he handed it to me. And that was like the moment I fell in love with sales. Like that was like sales crack. You mean you talk to people and they give you money? So I was into it, started there. And then, I got out of school. I was going to be a lawyer and I was selling in between, and turned out I could sell really, really well. And my dad, who was a lawyer and a judge, was watching how much money I was making selling. And he said, I think you should probably stick with that. It's a pretty good living. He was not wrong.
Wow.
It's been a very good career. And then I got into the sales world, no different than y'all. I cruised through jobs. I made it rain. I got President's Club. I won awards, #1 salesperson, got promoted to sales leader, sales manager, ran sales teams, got into corporate, kept getting promoted, ended up running a large sales team for a multinational company. And then one day the economy fell apart, the Great Recession, which I don't know if you guys even remember. Y'all probably in high school when that happened. But I mean, y'all are young looking.
We're older than we're actually the same. We're the same age, but we are older than we look.
I'm 38.
Yeah, I'm 38 also.
I was 19.
Yeah, you were young.
Really,
still.
I was dumb, and you know what? I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start a valet company at 2008. So I started my first valet parking company.
Well, I started a sales
2008.
training company in 2007. So,
oh shoot!
Oh,
yeah.
So right
Wow,
there,
okay.
Great time. I'm sure
just
people were
awesome.
buying
So
like crazy.
I was in the job that I was head of sales. I was in a job I loved. I 1,000 salespeople. It was great. And then the bottom fell out of everything. And I decided at that point, I'm either going to go back into corporate America and go take another job. And there were headhunters that were chasing me, or I'm going to be an entrepreneur and chase my own dream. And I decided the latter. And that was 17, 18 years ago. And we're still cranking. And, the company's grown and grown and grown. We're international at this point, and we've got tons of trainers, and it's a great company, and I enjoy it. But that was really, it just got down to in the Great Recession when literally the world fell apart. There's a lot of people in my age group who started businesses at the time because it was your only hope. In my case, it was just this is your shot. But I can't think about a worse time to start a sales training company. So, but we did, and we got it moving, and it's been a great story since then. But it was really down to this, and you'll appreciate this from being in Kentucky. I'm only good at two things: horses and selling. And if there's a place where you can take your wealth and get less wealthy, it's horses. So selling was where I had to spend my time, because horses are a big black hole in a stall that you throw money into. So I picked sales, and here I am today.
Well, tell us about the horses though. Like what kind of stuff? And I'm not in Kentucky chases, but I'm out here in the Southwest. There's also horses in my community, but not quite like in Kentucky. Do you own horses or?
Yeah, a lot of thoroughbreds, and probably hung out in Kentucky, fox hunting. I played polo when I was in my younger years, but basically I've never not known being on a horse. It's like the one thing that I'm just good at. I don't have to think about it. On the other hand, I play golf, and I'm I mean, I don't understand golf. Like golf is like sales is the same way. Horses and sales, like I don't have to think. I just got it, right? But golf, Like, how in
It's a
God's
feeling.
name do you play a game that you can one day be the best at, and then the next day you forget how to swing a club? Like, I can't hit a golf. It can't hit the ball.
Mhm.
I can hit the ground, but I can't hit the ball.
Well, it's funny. I grew up with horses, so like my mom, I'm actually deathly allergic to
no.
horses, which is really funny. So like I break out in
Yeah, that's
hives,
ironic.
and like my mom broke horses, and I couldn't go to I always had to take Benadryl, so I've always been just in the background. And one of the things that I didn't realize is how much money there is in the horse industry. And I had a valet company, so we did like valet parking for restaurants, hotels, and I'd always come in Louisville, Kentucky, and we would always go to these private events in Lexington. And I remember going to a stud farm called Darley Stud Farm, and we were doing a private event there. And they're like, "Do you know who owns this horse farm?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Oh, it's the ruler of Dubai who owns this." And, the studs are like, the fees on these things are like $80,000, $100,000, $300,000 a shot to
Wow.
get your mare
Mhm.
in touch with this stallion. And it's like, this is a big business. And these horses can go 100, 200 times,
Yep.
a year. And it's a big business, you know?
There are people who make money with horses. I'm not one of them. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought you said
it's a
you
hobby
knew
with
it. Oh,
It was.
okay.
I was gonna.
I was like, that's
no,
the hardest
you can't
part.
make money. I can
Oh,
not
okay.
me. I mean, the
Yeah.
Sultan of Dubai, maybe, but not me. I'm
Probably.
I'm a mark. Like, people see me and horses, and they're like, "That's the dude. We're gonna take some money from him." Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
as my mother, who was always
So tell
around
us-
horses, explained to people about me, he's never seen a horse that he doesn't love, and that's my problem. Is I see them, I fall in love with them, I got to have them.
No.
Yeah. So talk to us about early days of the sales coaching company you launched right at the sort of bottom of the Great Recession, which was probably a very tough time to go out and offer, business revenue growth services to other companies. How did you get through that?
The first part of it is when you launch a company like that, you call all your friends and you get people to throw you a bone. So at least you've got some customers. But when I started the company, you got to think, nobody knows who I am. I have no sales, but nobody knows me. So it's not like you can call up people and say, "Hey, I'm Jeb Blount. You should work with me." These days, I've written 16 books. I'm all over the place, and you guys know me, and so people know who I am. It's a lot easier to have that level of credibility. So one of the problems with starting a company like that is you need cash flow, and I needed cash flow because if I didn't have cash flow, it was going to be a point where the dream became a real problem. So I started at the very beginning, like this is middle of 2007. I started an online job board for sales jobs, and I turned it into like a SaaS model, subscription model for people who needed salespeople. Now you would think this is a really dumb business in the middle of a recession, but it turns out that in the middle of a recession, there are lots of people who are looking for jobs, and there are still companies who are looking for salespeople. There's no time when nobody's looking for a salesperson because every company at some point has got to create revenue, because if you don't create revenue, nothing else works. So I started this job board. It was just me, and I turned it into a subscription model. And a year later, when we're just printing cash. So by 2010, I got money coming in everywhere, and I'm just using the cash to build out the training company. So as we build out a client, get a little bit more here, a little bit more there, the cash flow there, I fed into building the company that we are today. And I always meant it to be that way. So we ran that job board until 2018, and then we exited that business, and we immediately had already moved into digital learning solutions. So Salesgrove University, we're the cutting edge of digital learning for sales worldwide. We had already begun investing in that in 2015, 2016. We had started the process, learning how to do it right, even coded our own LMS before moving to the platform we're in right now, which is a really enterprise space. But we through trial and error got good at it, got better at it, and we were able to then exit the job board business, which is an awful business. Hated it, but it produced cash.
Yeah.
Once we had gotten ourselves to a place, so I essentially bootstrapped this business on a business that I didn't like very much in order to do what I really wanted to do, and then in 2011, we began to shift, but 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, And from there, that's really been our growth trajectory. So we started moving more into training and more into consulting and advisory services and fractional sales leadership and things like that. We began moving into that away from the job board business as a dominant part of our business. It's been just a nice little shift, but we've as a business been able to cash flow everything forward.
Wow. Amazing. And do you really focus on more like SaaS type businesses, or is there a certain vertical of business that you all really like to work with and you can really help scale?
So one of the decisions we made from the very beginning is that we were going to be industry agnostic. So there are lots of sales training companies who have picked an industry niche and that's where they live. And that's probably a better place to be. Like if you're only good at SaaS, or you're only good in real estate, or you're only good in manufacturing, and you get that reputation, then everybody there has a feeling that they need to use you. I made the decision not to do that. And some of it was just personal, because to me, it's just boring. Like if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, how it's not fun. And I only have like one, you got one go round. Like this is it. Like there's no more. So why am I going to spend 20 years waking up every day going, I got to do this crap again? So we are industry agnostic. We work with companies across the board. So I work with some of the biggest SaaS companies in the world to some of the smallest ones, but we also work in biogenetics, and we work in waste management. We work in sports. We work in insurance. We work in real estate. We work in business services, manufacturing, heavy equipment, capital equipment, you name it. I have such a diverse group of clients. It's so much fun to wake up every day and you're solving a different problem. And the benefit to our clients, and what's really become a selling feature for us, is because we work in so many different industries, we're able to see a lot of the same patterns. So we see similar problems, but they're in different contexts. And we're able to solve a problem over here, and then we're working with another client who's trying to move their market or to grow a little faster. And we see something there and we go, look, we applied this over here. Let's try it in this space, even though the context is different. So now, because we have such a wide breadth of experience working with all these industries, when we're working with our customers, we've got a basket full of solutions that we're able to bring to the table or sit down with our leadership team and say, hey, we're seeing this over here as a best practice. Why don't we think about how we can augment that for your particular unique situation and apply it here? And there's been some just miracle things that we've done where one was, I was working with another client. We solved the problem for them, and they were doing this little tweak to an inbound marketing SDR type thing, but with all inbound. So they were handling this problem. We took that same little tweak that they were doing, and we took it to another company that was their average seat was doing about $300,000 a year, which wasn't where they needed to be. We applied that tweak to them, and they're now doing $1 million a month per seat, $1 million a month from $300,000 a year with one little tweak. And that's what we found is almost always something small that can take a sales organization and really rocket it. And we would have never known that. We would never even thought about it had we not been in that other situation. So that's how we've gone to market. Harder as a business to pull that off because we had 10 years of, hey, well, what have you done in this particular industry? We don't really have those questions anymore, but we had that. And today we're able to really tell a story of, we don't know exactly what's going on in your business, but I guarantee you we'll find it. And when we find it, it's going to be something small. And when we change it, it's going to change your life.
Can you actually dig into that a little bit? Because something really amazing just hearing you speak about your company is the ability to adapt to all these different industries. I think I've only ever sold in the technology space. I can't imagine going to sell in like a life sciences company or a manufacturing company. I'd love to go check it out sometime. But I worry that my skill set maybe wouldn't apply to a manufacturing firm or, even a media company or something like that. It's still it's different than selling SaaS software. And it sounds like your team goes in and you can identify these small things that can make a massive impact or be a real force multiplier. Walk us through the process for doing that. How do you go into a business, regardless of what industry it is, and figure out what that small thing is?
Let's just think about what you just said. I work in SaaS, and I don't know how I would apply this in other places. And this, by the way, is a problem for business. So the leaders that are listening to this, the problem that you face is you say, I only want to hire people who have this particular industry experience. And the problem with that is that you're leaving out about 99% of the population that is really good at doing the things that you want them to do, but they don't have the industry experience. And the question you have to ask yourself is it easier to teach someone industry experience or easier to teach someone how to sit into a meeting with a group of stakeholders on a buying committee and to ask them questions and to really listen to them, and then to intuit what you've just heard, cobble together all this disparate information into a business case that you can present in such a way that compels them to want to do business with you? That has nothing, what I just said has nothing to do with industry. I can teach you the industry. So I am not a, you need to have experience here in order to do this type of person. Never have been. But I also grew up in business services, and in business services, my job was to go out and to walk into businesses, get to know them, offer them my particular service, and get them to buy it. And all these businesses were different. It wasn't like we only sold into one space. We sold into all kinds of businesses that use the same service. And the problem is that every single one of my competitors sold exactly the same thing that I did. I mean, when I say exactly the same thing I did. So the only thing that would differentiate me was how well I was able to get to understand my customer, listen to them, and then feed back solutions to them that reshaped what my product that looked like everybody else's into something that looked unique to them. And I wrote a book about this early on called People by You, which is, what do you do in a competitive displacement situation? So one thing you might look at and say, well, if you're a human being that is only sold in industries or for companies where you were the unique offering, like there was nothing else like you, you would have a really hard time selling in a situation where everybody's exactly the same. Because your emotional connection to being different would impede your ability to go out and make the case that you are different, even though it looks the same to everybody else. Like building the relationships, because you would be more of a product-led salesperson than a relationship-led salesperson. So from that standpoint, if I was looking at that experience, I would say this doesn't work because of what you sell. If you were in a situation where you got every lead fed to you, like you came in the morning and there was a list of leads that marketing had generated, and went to a company where you had to go out and find your own stuff. Like you got to go hunt. You can pull a list off of Zoom Info, but you got to go call them. You may have a hard time making that connection. That has nothing to do with industry experience. But if you're good in sales, right, what you should be good at is being able to go in and do discovery, listen, watch, and then pay attention to the patterns that you see. This is, by the way, why high IQ people matter in sales. If you hire dumb people, I say dumb people, it's probably not low IQ people, they're going to have a really hard time with that in today's world. And in sales, you have to have a high IQ and a high EQ, right? You have to be able to be really smart. And smart is being able to observe and understand all these patterns and take all this disparate information and align it in a way that builds a business case or solves a problem or is creative, or you're able to see all these things and then ask a question that gets a person to think about it so that they can see it too. EQ is the ability to manage your own emotions so that you can influence and impact the emotions of other people. And then you've got to be able to apply technology to all of this so that you're gaining more time to have this type of thought, because the salesperson of the future is going to be valued based on their ability to literally look in your world, look at your problems, and help you find solutions to them. And it's not always going to be a direct line. And a salesperson who is selling a product because they're the unique solution, they typically don't do that. Like they've got a direct line, you buy this, it's much more transactional. So back to your question, when we walk into a business, we don't look at the business and go, this is a business that does this. We look at a business and say, this is a business. What do businesses do? Businesses have to acquire customers. They have to expand their relationship with those customers. They have to retain those customers, and they have to make a profit. And so if you just think about every business, they're all the same. If you're not selling, then you're probably not going to make a profit very long. And if you're not making a profit, then it doesn't make a difference what you sell. You're going to go out of business. And the part about making a profit, that generally is what's going to separate companies, right? So the making a profit is going to be how they run their business. It's going to be what the operations look like. It's going to be the components of those operations. It's going to be whether it's recurring revenue or it's going to be one-time revenue. And it's going to be sometimes an equation of, is our focus growth because we want to increase the value of our company so we can sell it to someone else? Or is our focus on value where we're generating massive value for our stakeholders or for our family or for whoever's running the business? Every business is going to have their own mission. Once you understand that mission, we go back to, you have to acquire customers, expand customers, retain customers, and make a profit. You have to do them usually in that order. So if we think about that, every business has exactly the same problems. Those problems are going to shift based on the context. So what we have to do is we have to walk through a door of the businesses that we work with, especially when we're doing much more consulting work where we're helping them with their go-to-market strategies, or we're helping them solve a specific infrastructure problem, or maybe even the way that they're compensating their sales team problem. We have to walk through the door and we have to listen. So most of what we're doing is we're asking questions. We're walking around the business. We're interviewing people. We're paying attention, and we're looking for the different patterns that tell us here's where an opportunity is, or here's where a gap is. And then as we start bringing those back to our stakeholders, think about this from just a sales process. Come back to the stakeholders, we've gathered all the information and we just start putting it on the table and dropping it out there to see if we can get consensus around a couple of paths. Sometimes we got to be the bad guys. Like sometimes we got to say, if you don't fix this problem, none of this other stuff matters. You can spend all this money, but this is going to be a critical path to getting you where you want to go. That we have to solve this first. Other times, as we start looking at the stakeholder group, they say we can align around this particular path, even though it might not be the best path. If we can get the stakeholder group to align around that as leaders, if we can get everybody rowing in the right direction, we'll solve that one problem. Once we get success there, it's a lot easier to then go find other problems that we can fix. But if you think about that from a sales standpoint, think about what makes great salespeople great salespeople. Other than putting things into the pipeline, which is if you don't have things in your pipeline, that's the number one reason why you're going to fail. Other than that, the great salespeople are masters at discovery. They're masters at the question. Understand that a question that they ask is more important than anything that they say, and anything that they say, when it is delivered in the context of a question, is far more impactful. So what they're great at is the patience of doing discovery. In large enterprise deals, that might be years. It could be months of work, of asking questions, of listening, of building relationships through the discovery process. And so many, in sales, we want to focus on the sexy thing. Like so much want to focus on the sexy things like closing. I want to close. I want to negotiate. The sexy is in discovery. 80% of the deal is in discovery. And most deals are closed in discovery. When I say that, it doesn't mean that there's an implicit, we're buying from you right now, right? Or an explicit, we're going to buy from you right now. But it means that in discovery, based on the questions that you're asking and how you're interacting with a stakeholder group, and it doesn't make a difference what the industry is, as you begin repeating the stories that they tell you back to them in the context of their problems and how you can help them, they begin to make the decision that you are their vendor of choice. They begin to make the decision that they're going to work for you or work with you. That's where discovery is powerful. So whether you're a consultant, and by the way, most salespeople, if you're earning your stripes, you're a consultant. You're asking questions, you're listening, and you're feeding things back to people. You can take that salesperson who has that ability and drop them into almost any industry, and they can succeed and they can win. And those are the traits that you're looking for. And that's how we do that. We're just confident in the fact that all businesses they got to go get business, they got to expand business, they got to retain business, they got to make a profit. If we just look at that, everything in between, it's academic. Yep.
It's a formula.
And Jeb, we have a lot of people that come to us that reach out to us in the community that are like, hey, I want to get into sales, or I want to go from an SDR to an AE to VP of sales. And the first book that I always recommend them to read is Fanatical Prospecting.
Hey, what's up, sales players? I'm taking a quick break from this episode to remind you to support our sponsors, Lead Feeder. There's a link in the show notes that's going to get you hooked up with a 21-day extended free trial of Lead Feeder's tool. It is a way to find the low-hanging fruit in your territory. Please go check them out. They've been an awesome partner. Now, if you're also asking yourself, what else can I do to support sales players? There's lots of ways you can do that. Join us in our Slack community. There is a link in the show notes for that as well. And then you can join our mail list. That's a weekly email that goes out every single Sunday that gives you tips on how to best level up in your career. We talk about everything from closing to negotiation to career management to finances, and the list goes on and on. So you can sign up for that weekly email at salesplayers.co. Hope to see you there, and thanks for supporting the show.
I had an AE or an SDR that came in brand new to a business that he was under me, and basically I worked hand in hand with him, and he read Fanatical Prospecting. So that book came out in 2015. I want to ask you, do you feel like that book, is it still relevant? Which I think it is. I think that book is so relevant. But is there anything that you would like to add to that book, or just anything that you would talk about? And then also just talk to me about your documentation process as like an IC. Like how do you look at documenting those different steps of being able to scale?
Well, from a documentation standpoint, really it's around helping them develop specific dialed in, almost micro playbooks for all of the different functions that are going to get you there. So when we say acquiring customers, there's multiple processes of acquiring customers. So you may have different playbooks and processes around that. So the big thing you want to do is, as you start dialing into what those processes are, I mean, if you're an early startup, you don't know what your processes are. You can go read a book and try to put things in place, but you're going to have to trial and error because you are dealing with people. But as you start getting to a point where those processes start getting dialed in, my documentation is I'm building specific, really real world, I say really real world, but real world, this is how it works, playbooks. Here's how you get there. So it's essentially an SOP within the form of a playbook. That's how you do that. And then you have to have the leadership team that is always looking at how the playbooks are functioning. And as the business continues to grow and scale, as you hit plateaus, no different than in your personal life, if you hit a plateau, you've got to go back and look and start breaking those things apart. But if your first documentation is we've got this thing nailed down step by step, and I'm not talking about from an engineering standpoint with 800-page diagrams that nobody in their right mind can understand or read. And I do see that type of thing. I'm talking about, we've got it nailed down step by step. Typically, if you start looking at it and you pull it apart, like think about if we were in a virtual room and we pull the process apart and we started applying data to it, we could look and see, okay, we've got a problem here. This is where we're bogging down. Let's fix that. Mm-hmm. So for most of sales, if you just take all your ratios and blow your ratios apart, you can figure out exactly where you've got a ratio from one thing to the other that is causing a gap or a problem that slows the process down. It may be that you need to change the playbook. It may be that you need to change your focus as a leader. If you don't have that documentation, you have no idea where to go even look. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So the other question was about fanatical prospecting, and here's how I'm going to answer that question. So I'm sitting in front of a group of young SDR salespeople. They're 23, 24 years old, and there's 30 of them in the room. And I'm getting started, and because I teach fanatical prospecting, I'm usually the enemy when I walk in, because in my fanatical prospecting boot camps, we're making calls. Like when I walk in, like I walk into a room, I'm like, I am.
You're the drill sergeant.
I go, hello, my name's Jeb. I'm going to be your trainer today. Everybody got your list? Because they have to bring your list with them. They get your list. I said, get your list, get your pen, get your phone.
Oh, man.
You've got 15 minutes to make $15 and set one appointment. And then they started opening up their computers, and I go, stop, put the computer down, pen, list, phone, dial. Everybody hates me. So anyway, I walk in, and my trainers are the same way. And we do this with the military too. We're trained military recruiters, same thing. So we get you don't understand, nobody answers the phone, blah, blah, we get all the crap. So I'm in this room, this is 45 days ago, and one of the young men, and you could tell he's just one of those little punks. And he says, you wrote Fanatical Prospect. I went, yeah. His book's 10 years old. I go, yeah. He goes, how, is it even relevant anymore?
Whoa.
Wow. And I went,
that's bold.
I don't know. I said, you got your list? He goes, yeah. I said, give it to me. So I got his list. I spent the next 10 minutes dialing his list. I think I talked to 13 people. I set 4 first-time appointments, got a couple of pieces of qualifying information. By the way, the moment that I started dialing, the entire class leaned forward. I mean, every one of them. And when I got done, I handed it back to him, and I said, Elvis, Presley said, the truth is like the sun. And it's going to come up every day. He said, you can deny it, but it's just going to come up every day. I said, the truth is that the shit works. So do you got any more questions? And there was no more questions. So the question is it relevant? Why would anybody even ask that question? The reason they would ask that question is because they want me to tell them that they don't have to fucking talk to people, and that a computer or a robot's going to do it for them. And I'm going to take them off the hook for doing their job. And what I explained to SDRs is if you spend your entire day sending emails to people, you are going to lose your job, because a robot can do that for $20 a month, way better than you can. So pick up the phone and call somebody and have a conversation. That's what the job is. So what makes fanatical prospecting relevant is that the number one reason for failure in sales is an empty pipeline. And the number one reason why you have an empty pipeline is that you are not doing enough prospecting. You are not talking to enough people. Now, I'm not saying the phone is the only way. I am saying that it is the best way to have a synchronous conversation with another human being that you can put into the pipeline right now. I am saying sending 8 emails to someone to warm them up before you call them is pure stupidity. Pick up the damn phone and talk to people, then add an email to it, right? Then add social to it, and then do all the other things. So if there's anything that, you look at fanatical prospecting, is there anything that can make fanatical prospecting better? It would be a deeper conversation around sequences and the different elements that make up sequencing, like better targeting and getting your cadence right. So how am I going to run a cadence? I'm going to make a phone call, then send an email. Then I'm going to come in with say a chat message, or I'm going to go to LinkedIn, or I'm going to send them a video message. How do I do that? What's the duration? What's the spacing in between those touches? And what's the right way of understanding how that spacing should work? How do I use a tool like a SalesLoft and use their AI to build sequences that actually work? How do I help sales teams, entire sales teams, to please stop using sales engagement platforms as spam bots? Like if you've got 1,000 people in your sales team and they're all sending 8 emails a day to each of the prospects in the damn thing, why do you pay all the money for the thing? Just get your marketing team to use Pareto or HubSpot or something like that and just blast people with it. That is not fucking prospecting. Excuse my language. So if we could do that, it would be deeper. And the good news is that I'm right now working on that book. So I've got a brand new book that'll be coming out next year called Fanatical Prospecting Sequences.
Oh God, he's got another baby, folks. Another baby in the pipeline.
Another baby.
And Fanatical Prospecting Sequences actually opens up with, is fanatical prospecting still relevant? So I'm literally opening up with,
love that.
Look,
Wow.
And you're probably asking this question, is it still relevant? Let me explain why.
Well, no. And Jeb, the number one thing that I got from that book was just always be prospecting. So ABP, ABP. Yeah, ABP. So I'm at the dentist. I was selling call tracking.
Yep.
I was asking the dentist, who's your call tracker? But then also make one more call. At the end of the day, just one more call. And just doing that, I'm just implementing that, has changed my life.
If you do one more every day, you'll probably do 2.
I have a great,
Yeah.
I love that concept of just doing just that one more. It's almost like in the gym when it's do that just one more rep to failure. There is something in the mindset that just changes when you implement that as a practice. Like, I'm just going to go that little extra, and usually it's going to pay off. I've got a great story because I love the concept about talking to people. And I feel like it's sad to say that it's like a lost art of using the phone to connect with people. That's part of selling, right? It's a huge part of selling. That's really all it is, actually. The other day I got a call from Musician's Friend, which is, retail e-commerce brand. I had bought a guitar from them a few years ago, and they were calling to see how I was liking the guitar and fishing around to see if I was planning to purchase any more musical instruments. And by the end of that conversation, I had learned all about what CRM stack they were using, what chat bots they had implemented. That's what I sell by day is
CRM, chatbots, and customer service help desk tools. And so I got a whole, kind of understanding of how his inbound process is for customer support. And my wife was sitting in the front seat while I was taking the conversation. She's like, "How the hell did you just turn a call to you into you selling?"
It's always on.
And that's what it's all about, though. Is you're connecting with people, and it's genuine curiosity, and it's having the conversation.
That's a beautiful example. I tell people all the time, I've got these dents in my shins from my wife kicking me under the table because I'm in a restaurant and I'm asking them. This is back in the days of selling industrial stuff, like hey, the hand sanitizers in the bathroom. Where do you get those things from? So, but it is that, like, if you think about the conversations that you see top salespeople have, and they're in the line at the grocery store talking to people, just asking questions, and they're always poking around. That's prospecting, and it's never going to go away. A bot's not going to do that for you. AI is not going to do that for you. And frankly, right now, email doesn't work. And I hate to say that because I've never said nothing doesn't work. But if you look at teams that are doing just email prospecting, their results have diminished to a point of failure because over the last 9 months, we allowed AI to kill email. If you've got a bot that can just send an email relentlessly 24 hours a day, eventually buyers, everybody else turns off, and executives are saying this. I don't even answer emails anymore. I don't look at it because your email, even though it was real and it was sent by you from your heart and you sincerely wrote it and put it together, you just got cast out with everybody else because they got 30 emails a day from companies that all have the same subject line. And it's crazy. This happened to me last week. I got an email that had a subject line on it that made me open it. I'm a human like everybody else. I opened the damn thing up. And as soon as I opened up, I was like, crap. The whole thing was written by a robot. It was all AI. And I was like, I can't believe I got duped into this thing. So I closed it up and I turn around, I'm talking to somebody, and I come back. I have 6 emails in my inbox from 6 different companies that all have the exact same subject line. So the bot company that was putting that together saw me open it and went, "Oh, because this is what robots do. Oh, that was a good thing. Let's do more of that."
Let's do more of it. Let's blast it.
So we go back to, like, what's the competitive differentiator in today's world? It is what you just did. I have the ability to hop on the phone with someone and convert a conversation about a guitar, about music, into what their CRM is and how they're dealing with their customers and doing intake. I can go to my dentist and have a conversation about this. I can talk to somebody in the grocery store line. And that is it's a perfect analogy to how being good at technology helps you. If I've got great technology, and I can spend all my time doing those type of things, the things that no one else can do. There's power in that. And so, the core message in financial prospecting was, if you don't prospect, you die. If you don't prospect, you sub-optimize your income. If you are always on, you never stop. You're constantly thinking about the next person I can talk to, you win. And by the way, if you have in your heart, like if you truly believe that what you sell as a software can help that business, why wouldn't you? You're a consultant, you help people. I sincerely believe that what I do helps businesses. I'm actually appalled that anybody would ever hire another company other than mine to work with them. I'm appalled by it. It hurts me in my core because I believe that we're better than everybody else out there. And I know it. Now, I understand there's competitors out there. Like, I understand there's preference out there, but still, I don't want any of my competitors to have any business ever. I want to put them all out of business and bankrupt them. So the only way to do that is I got to go talk to people. I got to be so paranoid that you're in there having a conversation with my customer before I get to them, that I'm going out there and I'm driven to get there. I'm driven to get there before you. So I think that I think we're moving into a new and differentiated sales space. And I think the space we're moving into, this is my belief, is that there is going to be a very quick separation of people who are really good with humans and people who are not. I think that AI and the explosion of technology that is coming out of AI is going to force us to step into our humanity. It is going to force a shift where our true competitive edge is going to be this. It's synchronous conversations, primarily because people don't particularly care for talking with AI. I had to talk to a daggum robot the other day ago at 2:00 in the morning on software problem that I was having. And I woke my wife up because I was screaming expletives at my computer because I was running around in freaking circles because the robot's stupid. So the ability to do exactly what you're doing, the ability to talk to people, suddenly it becomes a competitive advantage. It becomes a competitive edge. And the salespeople who are very good at this are the ones that are going to make so much money. They're going to be the ones that are in helping their customers solve complex problems. I mean, the problem you just described, how do you deal with your customers when they're coming in and they have problems and they have issues, and how do you give them the best experience possible? That is not easy. You can't go just push a button and fix that problem. You need an expert who has seen other companies do the same thing, bringing in those best practices and putting that together in a solution that helps that business grow and gives the owners of that business a peace of mind that their customers are going to be happy. You got to go get customers, expand customers, and retain customers. Think about that. So,
Jeb, one question real quick, and it's going to sort of sidetrack you. One thing that I've noticed with your content is that you have lost a lot of weight recently in the last few years. And like, actually because sometimes me as a seller, I can actually just get lost and all I want to do is just sales. So I think I want to talk about how do you actually put yourself first and create that healthy atmosphere. I think a lot of people don't talk about that, and that's really important because we can't just be prospecting all the time and then we're just going to grind ourselves into just sales gravy.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
that was good. So you're talking about specifically about me losing weight,
or you're just staying in shape and staying very like committed to just keeping on track of like how,
I would love to tell you that
that as a focus.
It's intentional, like self-care. I would like to say that I don't know so much. I think that there are a couple of things that happen in my life, and I've always kind of been up and down. And one of the things happened is that after the pandemic, like when everything opened back up again, I started traveling. I blew up like a balloon because suddenly I could walk into every restaurant and I was like ordering 3 desserts. I'll take all 3 because I haven't had a dessert in a while. All I've eaten is crap off my stove. So some of it was that. Some of it was exactly what you said. You get caught up in the daily grind. I've had that over the last couple of days. Like we did this book launch for the AI Edge, and I have not been my healthy self. Like I've eaten too much of bad things. I've been like yesterday, I was telling Anthony Areno, my co-author on this book, I said, my neck hurts because I've got tech neck because I've been sitting on LinkedIn, commenting on every comment, driving the algorithm up so more people will see the book and buy the book. And because of that, I just didn't exercise. I didn't walk. I didn't get anything in. And so I think the answer is you got to be intentional about it. And so for me, it's been 2 things. One, I've gotten to a place in my life where I'm old enough that if I have to go on a weight loss program again, it gets really hard. When you're young, man, you can, when I was 30 years old, I gained 5 pounds. I could lose it by like not eating dinner. And now you gain 5 pounds and you got 3 weeks of sweat to get it off. It's hard. So the big thing was like, I'm not going to do that again. And that's just a decision I made. I am not going to go down this road again. I'm not. And I threw away all my fat clothes. So there's no going back. Like all I got is what I got, and that's how it's going to be. So that was number 1. Number 2 is just being intentional about doing something, like doing some sort of exercise, some sort of walking. For me, it's a lot of walking. I'm going to go play golf this afternoon. I'm going to go walk. So I'm going to end up walking almost 4.5 miles this afternoon, carting a golf bag. And I walk more the worse I play. So we'll see how that goes. So there's a benefit. If I hit it like over here, I get more steps in. So I do that. And then the other part is, and this has been super important, no processed foods. To like my one thing is no processed foods, with the exception of whiskey, which is processed, but it is the water of life. And that's a little bit different. So
that's right.
And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But so I don't eat processed food. So I eat whole food, salad. I eat protein. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. I eat steak. So I can pretty much live on brown liquor and steak. I'm good at that. But I have to not eat as much of that as I normally would. And that's it. Like I don't eat a lot of carbs but mostly walking, exercise, awareness of what I'm eating, and then the decision, I'm not going to do this again. The hardest part is what you said, is forcing myself to quit what I was doing and go walk. And that's the thing that I really struggle with for a long time, because I'll write a book and I can write for 16 hours a day. I'm so into it, I won't stop. Or I'm so into working on some project in my business that I won't stop. So it is a mindset shift to force myself to get up and go walk or go exercise. And that's hard, because I'm used to working more than most people do and getting a lot more done than most people do. That's just been the key. Now, the last thing, whiskey. I love bourbon. You love bourbon. So I love it and I enjoy it. And I tried I'm not going to drink any alcohol thing. Like I'm not going to do alcohol. Victor, Antonio did that. I'm not drinking any more alcohol. It's bad for you. I read a bunch of articles and alcohol is bad for you. And I realized that the quality of my life suffered because I really enjoy coming home, put a big rock in a glass, pour, a finger of whiskey in it, swirl it around, drop a little bit of water in it, sit down on my back porch and sip on some bourbon, and I enjoy it. And you know what? You got to put things in your life that you really like in, because you only get one go round. And I'm not gonna, there were things I'm not gonna suffer at that level. So I kept things like popcorn. I love popcorn and I love my bourbon, and that's what I do. And in moderation, but
Thanks.
I'm not gonna quit it.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's something really important that people need to hear. Yep.
So, Jeb, we know you're a busy guy. You're on the road a lot. You're on stage a bunch. You've probably done a handful of these podcasts already this week. So in closing, give us just a quick summary on the AI Edge. We want to make sure our listeners go pick up a copy of it. Talk to us about that, and then tell us how fans can reach out to you.
I thought you'd never ask. The only thing that would make this better if we were toasting it right now.
Right.
So this book is a sales book, not a tech book. And what we did was we took every part of the sales process, from prospecting all the way through negotiating, from just dealing with contracts. And we broke down how to use AI. And we have to recognize we're in a really early stage, because there's not an AI solution for everything, but there are AI solutions for a lot of things. And a great example of that is just right before this podcast, I was teaching a group of my students on first-time appointments and how they can find great questions to open up those conversations. And I was showing them a prompt that's in the book on how to grab a business and organize your prompt in a way that you can actually get some really thoughtful questions that come out of AI that you do have to go back as a human and work on, but can help you prompt those questions. Our goal was to keep it super practical, super easy, really short chapters. I like short chapters because I feel like I'm making progress in a book when there's short chapters. And lots of exercises and lots of prompts. It's a fun book. I got away from it. This book was finished back in May, and I hadn't looked at it. And since then, and I'm reading it on Kindle now myself. And I'm actually been surprised at just how well it reads for a sales professional. I'm just reading it as I'm a sales professional when I like it. I think you're going to dig the book. I think for sales professionals right now, you got to go start working in AI. It's getting baked into everything that you use, but the principles of how you run AI and how you use AI to make yourself better so that you can have more meaningful conversations is not going to change. And my favorite part of the book is the $6 Million Man. Y'all probably don't remember that, but when I was growing up, like in the 70s, and I was a kid, man, the $6 Million Man, Steve Austin was everything. Like, and that I played it, I dreamed about it. I was going to be man and machine together. And suddenly, like, and it's come, I'm able to plug into this machine and do amazing things and do them really quickly. So finally, you can be the $6 million sales rep, although it's probably $1 billion these days. So go get the AI Edge. You can pick it up everywhere it is. You'll love it. And if you don't like it, send me a note and tell me.
And also one other thing that you did say, Jeb, at the beginning of the show, it's not on Audible. So it is, you want to actually order the book or get it on Kindle.
A lot of people would ask me this. I would read this book first. It will be on Audible. But there's no way we're going to be able to, on an Audible, read you every single prompt and every single response to the prompt so you can see it. I mean, we would bore you to tears. But it's a great guide. Like, you're going to want it as a guidebook, because you want to be able to open it up and then do a repeat on what we gave you, so that you can get the information out. It will be on Audible. We're working on that process, but I suspect it's probably going to be late December, early January before this book comes out on Audible.
Well, Jeb, first of all, we're huge fans. We're so pumped that you came on the show today. This has been an awesome conversation. We know our listeners are going to love it also. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Pick up a damn phone. Like, just go talk with people. I mean,
Hell yeah.
For me, it's like the more people you talk with, the more you're going to sell. I think that your examples are standouts for me. I can't wait to go watch the replay, because I think they're brilliant. You're just having conversations with people. Just do that with, in your heart, the desire to go help people, and you're never going to lose. And drink more bourbon.
Drink more bourbon. Yeah, Kentucky bourbon.
bourbon.
You gotta, Kentucky bourbon. Jeb, this has been amazing. Thanks again for coming on the show, and look forward to your next book.
You guys are awesome.